morning, everybody. So today we're going to talk about planned patterns. So there's a couple different types of patterns. There's planned patterns and random patterns. But today we're going to talk about planned patterns, which are the consistent, orderly repetition of a motif. And remember, a motif is a unit in an artwork that is repeated over and over again. So the motif in this artwork would be this little sloth character, and the motif in this one would be a heart that's right side up and a heart that's upside down. So those together would make a motif. Then the motif in this one would be one of the buildings, okay? So planned pattern, make sure you've got it down. Planned pattern, consistent, orderly repetition of a motif. And we're going to look at three different types of planned patterns. We're going to look at half drop, we're going to look at alternating, and we're going to look at row. So this first one, the half drop, so that is a specific kind of row pattern with the vertical orientation of each row evenly spaced to half the height of its preceding row and with a shifted horizontal position. So what that means is it lowers each row of motifs half the height of the row next to it. So here, that's the one you're going to write down, and then I'm going to explain that, okay? So if you look at this motif right here, okay, so if you look at this little guy, you scoot him over, drop him down. See how he's halfway in between the one next to him? If you take this guy, scoot him over, drop him down, scoot him over, drop him down, scoot him over, drop him down. Okay, so if you take something from this row, so you can see this row, if you scoot it over and drop it down and it matches, it's a half drop. So you go over and down, over and down, over and down, over and down. So really all of that boils down to scoot it over and down. And if it matches, then it's a half drop. So when you decide what you want to do for your half drop, make sure you don't end up with a checkerboard. A checkerboard is not the same as a half drop, okay? So now for me, I think I'm just going to do my letter. So I'm going to start by making a row of my letter. And so my motif for this would be my E, right? Now to make it the half drop, remember we got to go over and drop it down. So it's halfway in between. So now I'm going to draw my other E right here. Okay, so I move it over and drop it down. And now I just finish off the rest of the row just like that. So I would see like half on that row, right? And now I'm going to move it over and drop it down again. So really it's each row is, the same. It's just the placement is just slightly different, right? So go ahead and finish out your half drop. You can choose to do a letter from your name. You could do a little picture. You can do half drops with any motif you like. But do remember to come up with your own version of a half drop. Okay, so the next one that we're going to look at is alternating. So alternating is a pattern type that changes between two or more motifs in an organized way. Okay, so pattern type that changes between two or more motifs in an organized way. So when we're looking at this, we've got the hearts that are right way up, and then we've got the hearts that are upside down, and they alternate, right? It's not a checkerboard, but it goes, right side up, upside down, 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 right side up, upside down. So if you can tell what's going to come next, and there's, a small change or something like that, then it's an alternating. If it changes between, two things, if it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that would be alternating. So I'm going to say, for me, I'm going to do a heart, and then I'm going to do an E. And then I'm going to do a heart, and then I'm going to do an E. And you would be able to tell me what comes next, right? So even though I'm alternating, I'm changing it, you would be able to tell me what's next, right? A heart. Now I could continue and, you know, add on more stuff. That would be okay too. But as long as it's changing between a couple things and you can tell what comes next, then it's an alternating pattern. So the last one that we're going to look at is row. So a row is the simplest pattern of a repeating motif in a single line or several similar lines. So like this right here, if you're talking about a row of houses like this one, so we've got a row of houses. So there's the same kind of house all, you know, in one line, right? So this one's usually the easiest one to figure out because you take your motif. So if I'm doing an E, you take your motif and you just keep on going. So this one's like a regular pattern, right? It's very consistent. You could tell me what's going to come next, and there you go, right? So there's my row pattern. All right, thanks everybody.